those are three very different hobbies that you guys have been working on.
I think those coasters would go really well with that faith, family, and friends sign that you've got in the background there, Swenson.
You like that?
You're listening to the Teak Nation podcast with Donnie Aldrich, where we strive to educate, inspire, and entertain you with tips and lessons from frauders and friends of TKE. Thank you for joining us.
All right, welcome everyone to the latest version here of the Teak Nation podcast. My name is Alex Swenson. I'll be standing in as host for today. Have some very good friends with me here to share some wisdom and some insight, at least to the best of their ability. We'll see how it goes. Reese Jones, Cole Connor, Ty Hogg, three members of the Collegiate Advisory Committee, current college teaks. Men that are living this teak experience day in and day out. And we're excited to have them because this episode is a continuation of what we have come to know as the Esteem series, where we've really dug into teak's values and specifically esteem and what that means to us as members. We've focused a lot on alumni members and their teak experience. We wanted to bring in some college flair as well. Bring in some guys, like I said, that are living this teak experience day in and day out. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here. Before we get going, I'll give you each a quick chance to introduce yourself. Please try and keep it to 7-8 minutes max, if you could, and just a little bit about yourself, where you're located, what year you are in school, what college you go to, and what your teak experience is currently, if you're in an officer position, and what you do there on campus. So we'll kick it off. Reese, you wanna go first, bud?
Yeah, I'm a senior at the Alpha Pi chapter at George Washington University in DC. Right now, I don't hold any positions within the chapter. I'm just working with the CAC. I'm kind of coasting through my last semester, getting to observe and not have to make any real decisions anymore.
I know as a leader, that's the quickest way to establish credibility is just to tell everyone you're coasting through your senior year, not doing anything. So appreciate that. Ty, probably the easiest job right now is to follow Reese's introduction of himself. You want to give it a crack?
Yeah, so Ty Hogg from Beta-Zeta at Louisiana Tech. I'm a junior in marketing. I'm the current Epi Preakness here, just a blue-collar boy from West Monroe, Louisiana, right down the road.
Ty, will you do me a favor and just finish the phrase extra virgin olive
oil?
Yeah, thank you. Cole Connor, go ahead, man.
Bringing some youth and someone who can actually speak the English language correctly. My name is Cole Connor. I'm the CAC chair, so I sit and represent the CAC as well as every undergraduate across North America on the Grand Council. I am from the University of Houston, the Epsilon Omicron chapter. Currently, I am the Chrysophilis finishing out that term. It's been a blast here to collect dues in the middle of a global pandemic where we had some unemployment numbers. But yeah, looking forward to chatting with you guys today.
Well, I appreciate it, gentlemen. I think as we can see, we're all getting along really well so far, established a solid rapport. So excited to see where this goes. Really, the goal of this episode of the podcast is just to let you guys dish a little bit, talk about some of the lessons you've learned throughout the year. 2020 has been like any year that I have experienced. And being that I am quite a bit older than you young men, I would imagine it's the same for you guys. It's been a year of, the pandemic. There's been a financial crisis in a lot of ways that Cole just alluded to. There's been a lot of social unrest and a lot of social change. We just got through with an election that was divisive, to say the least. I don't think I'm breaking any barriers down saying that. But there's also been a lot of opportunities, I think, to reflect, to grow, to develop. And I'm just really curious to hear your experiences as college students who have seen this year play out and how your experience has changed being largely virtual. I'll mix in, I want to mix in some fun stuff. I want to mix in some topics and that give you guys a little time to share a bit about yourselves. But I also, I want to focus on your teak journeys and your journeys as leaders in your chapters. Have some questions for you. If we stray from those, not a big deal, but I just want to get the discussion started and kind of see where it takes us. So the first thing I'll start with is a little more of a fun question, maybe break the ice a little bit, so to speak. We've done a lot of online shopping here in the Swenson household in 2020. My wife, myself, everyone is getting their fair share of Amazon packages. To each of you, I ask, what is the most absurd or extravagant purchase you have made in the last 8 months of sitting at home and, as Reese so eloquently stated, doing nothing during the quarantine? So whoever wants to go ahead. But I want to hear what new items you have acquired throughout this year.
Well, I want Reese to go first because he's got an extravagant setup over there looking like he's streaming on Twitch right now.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking silly purchases, I may or may not have overspent on a microphone and camera for the 9,000 hours I'm spending on Zoom for the last year of my collegiate experience. So, I mean, poor purchases, but it makes me look better and sound a little bit better. So I'll deal with it.
Well, if this is better, I guess I'm glad that we're not getting V1 of the Reese Jones podcast setup. But appreciate it. Ty or Cole, you guys add anything into your daily lives that's been exciting or unnecessary?
Yeah, a couple of my buddies might tell you I bought this mustache off Amazon. It's not true. I did buy a blowgun that shoots darts out of it. It's pretty sweet. I had a lot of fun with it early on during quarantine.
I would say that that absolutely qualifies as absurd and unnecessary. So thank you for sticking to the prompt there. Cole, bring it home, man.
Well, I think this one was inspired by Alex Baker himself. I actually purchased a ring light for my Zoom sessions so I can have a little bit better natural light. But that was here at the tail end after I was roasted grossly for the terrible lighting that I had on Zooms and team meetings and everything else. And then recently I've started to look at my truck and want to spin things and make it look pretty too. But I say there's a lot of stuff looking around the house and looking around everywhere that you want to spend money on. But I've been relatively good about not spending on ridiculous items. So I will say that.
Good for you. Way to keep yourself financially stable. I appreciate that. How many flags do you have flying off your tailgate on your truck? I think
0.
2.5 over under is kind of the quota that I've seen around central Indiana. I don't know.
I'll take the over on Cole.
Well, when you work from home, you don't do a whole lot of driving. So 0 flags. But if you want to ship me a couple of teak flags, I'd be more than willing to set that up for you. Take a couple pictures for you.
I will. I'll look into it. I think that'd be just a really effective use of those flags and of your time to set those up. So that'll we'll see. Maybe next podcast we can do a little MTV Cribs and Cole can take us out to his garage and show us the truck with the flags hanging from it. Moving from that into a little more serious topic as seamlessly as we can. I want to get into this genesis really of the Esteem series, which came from the fact that the United States as a country had this I guess social uprising in a lot of ways, and TKE had some shortcomings in that neighborhood and reacted to that in a way that we felt was appropriate and necessary. And hopefully you all have seen that we're doing some diversity and inclusion training for our collegiate officers coming up soon. You can find more information about that on our website and on our social media page. But we also wanted to spotlight frauders with diverse backgrounds, members of the LGBTQ community, members of the BIPOC community. And a large part of this social uprising, I guess, as I called it earlier, has come from this younger generation, not even the millennials, the next generation in line that you three belong to. And as college students and as young men, why do you think your generation has taken so much to these issues and taken so much to trying to make these changes, and why have the young people in this country taken on such a significant role in this whole process as we've seen it play out? Anyone can go first.
I mean, I think the big thing for people our age specifically is that we've all been very internet minded since, the beginning. So the access to information to point to different perspectives has always been there. Whereas I think, for my parents and grandparents, the line that you're in, Swenson, the the access to seeing what's right and what's wrong and where there are shortcomings in our society just wasn't there. If it wasn't in the news or the newspaper, you didn't see it. But I think for us, we all have, by nature of having such internet access and such diverse communities that we've grown up in, like the access to two perspectives as a whole, but also to see where things that are wrong are actually happening. Like that's something that from a young age, like, oh, that shouldn't happen just because that person's Black or just because that person's a woman or for whatever reason. And I think that people our age, because of the vast amount of information that we consume, I think we're generally more inclined to care about those things anyway, just because of the fact that we can just soak in massive quantities of information at one time.
I would probably say as well. I think a lot of people that are getting to our age are they're independent in college for the first time in their lives, and they have the ability to make their own decisions, form their own opinions, and not just listen to what their parents tell them. And I think they're also getting to that age where they realize, hey, this is something I'm passionate about. I can do something about it, and I can work towards a goal and work towards some sort of common good with people who are like-minded and make an impact.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that we're as everyone likes to say, we're in 2020. What our education and what our college experience and what our upbringing looks like compared to what a vast majority of people in the United States has had is significantly different. We grew up with the internet. We grew up with essentially an encyclopedia that is updated instantly all of our lives. So we have access to more information than people have ever had access to before. And so with that leads more curiosity, where people are getting online and they're reading about things and they're deciphering between the real and fake news, and they're going through all of that and they're determining and creating opinions on things, whether in the past it's been listening to dad and grandma and teachers and whatever speaking to you, whereas now when you go into college courses and you go into some of these classes and have these discussions, they're telling you about what has happened and you're asked to formulate your own opinion. I mean, I think education is increasing and becoming better than it's ever been before, and you can look at that translated over to TEAC, right? No more are we just teaching you how to be a great TEAC. We're teaching you how to be a great man. We're teaching you not only how to be a great treasurer, but how to be a great leader and inspire others to have that same passion, and to how to go out and have difficult conversations, right? It's just we're constantly building off, and we are just the most recent product. I think the people who are following behind us and growing up now are going to be even more educated and have even more stronger ideas.
Yeah, I think that's really good perspective, as far as the ability to access information immediately and not just relying on, maybe what your parents or your grandparents or family members or friends have told you. And not that information is not valuable and productive in a lot of ways, but I think, we today have the ability, as Reese said, to step outside of that and go find answers for ourselves. And that's been really powerful. And I think that's really the exact reason why the younger generation has come up and been much more inclusive and accepting at times. I want to continue down that path. And another big part of this Esteem series for those who have listened to it. And if you've not, I would encourage you to. There's 4 episodes. This is the 5th. They all tackle different issues, but they're all tied together by the fraternity and by the values that we preach as members of Tau Kappa Epsilon. And one of the big themes that I took away is members of our fraternity who, might be gay or bisexual or maybe Black or of Asian descent, learning not just to survive in that diversity, but to thrive within it, and to really, control and dictate their circumstances through reflection, through understanding, where they came from, where they're going. And so I want to ask the same question to you three. This year, has that provided you all any opportunities to reflect or look back maybe on your own thoughts or ideas and maybe change some of those due to the information that's been in front of you and due to maybe what you've heard in some of our other podcasts, maybe what you've heard in podcasts unrelated to Teak Nation, or what you've seen on the news, what you've seen on social media? How have you reflected back on your own personal upbringing and thoughts and feelings and ideas, and maybe made some changes to those?
Yeah, I think it's just really interesting as we came into March and we all kind of started to sit inside and kind of be alone with ourselves a little more than usual. And as how that semester and this year has kind of started to go on, it's provided, at least for me, a lot of time to sit back and think and almost meditate on some of these ideas. I mean, things come out, and rather than being in a place where there's, 15, 20 people around me at times, there's only, 2 or 3. And so it allows you to have more time to think to yourself and form your own opinions, and almost having these tough conversations with yourself. And I think, combined with that fact of social media as well, you can have those tough conversations. You can have conversations about some of these topics that's come up as you've had time to think about it. Whereas kind of in the past, it was you're in a large group and you felt maybe a little more pressured to have a certain thought or a certain idea. But, just the way that this year has started to unfold has just provided a lot more reflection time. And I think that's important for people to be able to reflect on, their ideas, what they've done, what they've said in the past, and then charting a path forward as to, okay, this is what I believe and this is what I'm going to go forward with. And I think it's provided a lot of people with a platform in themselves to stand up for what they believe in and what they know to be true and right.
Yeah, and I think going from that, like this whole process of not only being inside, but being inside during a time where there's such a I don't know what to call it, like a social awakening where all of these important issues that have kind of been, pushed under the rug in our society are very present and very obvious, and there's no way not to look at it. I think that has provided an opportunity, at least for me specifically, to kind of not just sit down and form my own opinions, but to sit down and reflect on and think about why, how do I form my opinions? Not just, looking at what biases I might have, or learning about different areas of my communities, or about places that I came from that I didn't think about before, that subconsciously played into my decision making, but I never thought about. I think that this whole time of being able to just sit with just myself and my own thoughts and just work through kind of the process that leads to an opinion, and try and make sure that process is as informed and as realistic as possible without making any quick judgments or letting something someone else said at any point in not influence, because obviously a difference of opinion helps to form your own opinion, but not hear something that someone said and just take that and run with it. Being just alone for 6-8 months at this point has made it so that every time a decision comes up or something happens, it's a process of sitting down and kind of working through the mental underlying mechanisms in my brain that would form my opinion on that. And I think that's been a great thing.
Yeah, I got a lot personally just out of having conversations with other people about things. And of course, I had a lot of time by myself, like Reese and Cole said, to kind of process that on my own and form my own opinions. But there's so much value in having conversations with people who aren't the same as you and who come from different backgrounds than you, and hearing their stories and knowing their experiences and that kind of thing is where you can find a lot of stuff and have a lot of realizations that you would have never understood beforehand, just from talking to a person who has different experiences than you. So,
like someone without a mustache, for example.
exactly.
You can learn a lot. No, I appreciate that, Ty, and I appreciate the responses that you guys gave. You touched a lot on this sense of loneliness, I guess would be the way to put it, being by ourselves and not being surrounded with our same social circles as we normally would. Another big part of what's taken place throughout the last 6-8 months has been this sort of, mental health crisis in a way. People who are struggling, dealing with the changes that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought onto their lives. And I feel, frankly, I feel especially bad for high school and college students, because that's such a formative part of life that you all are not getting the experience you signed up for, right? You signed up to go to college, to be social, to be in a fraternity, and that experience has been taken from you in a lot of ways. And I know that you each have kind of coped and thrived in different ways. But when it comes to the mental health side of things, what have you guys done to just stay sane in a lot of ways and keep your mind moving forward instead of dwelling on the bad things, reflecting on the good things? How have you all worked through those issues and continued to stay mentally healthy and taking care of yourselves?
I mean, at least for me, a big part of it in this whole cycle of, terrible news, it feels like it gets worse every day. One of the big things I try to do is I don't look at the news, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. I give myself the first hour of my day and the last hour of my day, aside from maybe election week where I was consistently refreshing the page. But, I think that has been very helpful, because it gets really easy to just doom scroll for 2 hours before your day starts. And then by the time you go, all right, now it's time to eat breakfast. Well, I kind of want to get it back in bed because this sucks. So I think that a big thing for me has been that whole process of trying to cut down on intentionally consuming things that are going to make me sad, no matter how it spins. But then too, like the whole thought of, yeah, I'm alone. I live in an apartment with my dog, but like I made a Zoom account just to talk to my friends. Like even during the summer, during the school year, like making that consistent effort to reach out to my friends and be like, hey, do you want to spend half an hour on Zoom talking about your week? Because I miss you and it's hard to be by myself right now. And I think that the ability to do those kind of things because of the technologies that we have has made it significantly easier to be, living on my own during this time.
I think personally, I've tried to use it as a learning experience, just knowing that, yeah, I'm missing out on all this stuff throughout my college career, and COVID and quarantine have kind of sucked. But I'm learning about how to deal with things day by day that I wouldn't normally have experienced had I had a regular 4 years in college. I could have breezed by and gone by the seat of my pants of, just having a normal college experience. And I've had this opportunity to learn about how to adapt and how to overcome things that are unexpected and you wouldn't necessarily see coming. So I've seen a lot of growth there personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you talk about somebody who has blown a massive lead, Skype. That was something that I totally had forgotten about. And then suddenly Zoom comes out and I'm spending every single day on Zoom, with guys like Reese, Ty, people from my chapter, Swenson. I didn't, at the very beginning of, this quarantine and COVID-19 pandemic, it was fun for about a week or two. And then you kind of got back into the swing of things and you were like, wow, I feel really alone. And then you adjusted. I think we all learn to adjust, and suddenly you're finding yourself on more Zoom calls, and I enjoy it. I mean, it's now a chance that, I don't get to see Reese and Ty that often normally, but now that we're having Zoom calls, I at least get to see them and hear them at least once every 2 or 3 weeks. And that's just, I think that kind of goes into, as humans and as people, our ability to adapt and overcome and see the good and the possibilities, even when things look really dark and grim, our ability to shine through all that darkness and come through and find the good in things has just been incredible, I think.
Yeah, and I think you really learn to appreciate some things at a higher level too, right? Like Cole said at the beginning, it was fun, right? Hell yeah, I don't have to go to class. Just sit at my desk on my computer screen. I don't have to go sit in a classroom. Don't have to talk to the professor. We don't have to go to the office, right? You're home. I get to, worry about my laundry or my dishes during the day when I might not have had time otherwise. And then after a couple of weeks, you're like, oh, well, there was actually a lot that I enjoyed about going to class or going to a meeting or going to the office and being able to reflect forward or maybe preflect. I don't know what the word is. And think, okay, when this starts back up, I'm going to appreciate these things at a little higher level, I think is another, offshoot of where we've come. And so, I think you guys are all really, you all gave some really good advice, I think, for anyone listening about ways to cope with however long this goes on moving forward, being able to think and reflect and appreciate the things you have and not just surround yourself with bad news and force yourself to be miserable, I think is extremely important. It has been extremely important. It's going to continue to be extremely important as well. I want to shift into maybe a little more uplifting topic here. So I asked you guys earlier, what's the most ridiculous thing that you purchased? I'm curious, this has been a time for us all to develop new hobbies as well. And, I know Reese, you've taken on professional radio broadcasting. Ty, you've taken on mustache growing. But what's one hobby that you've picked up throughout the quarantine that maybe you wouldn't have had time for otherwise, but being home, being by yourself, you've forced yourself to learn a new skill or try something different that's worked out for you?
I watched a lot of Game of Thrones. I had never watched the series, so I started watching that. Picked up a harmonica a little bit. I'm not too good at it, but I started messing around with it, and I can play Piano Man, so I got that knocked out.
Did you play a tune for us?
I was gonna say, you got to be careful telling people you can play an instrument.
Sitting right in front of them.
You know what's coming next.
Well, let's hear what you got. Come on, give us a little something.
All right, hold on.
This is like the Ron Burgundy jazz flute. Exactly. I'm not prepared at all.
Hold on.
I don't even know.
Are we doing this?
We're doing it.
It's all you, man.
See, I messed up, but that was the first few notes.
That wasn't bad. That's more harmonica than I think everyone else in this call could play combined.
100%.
We'll keep working at it. When we do this again next year, after the next 8-month quarantine, we'll expect to have the full piano man set played. Yeah. Maybe Cole could pick up playing the piano. Maybe Reese, you could work on the vocals. We can do a full piano man set here, CAC style.
I mean, if somebody's doing vocals, it's definitely not going to be me.
Well, you've got the fancy mic.
Yeah, I'll ship you the mic and you can sing.
I think, 6 months ago, if you'd have told Ty if someone's playing the harmonica, he just said it's not going to be him. So let's leave that door slightly ajar.
Yeah, I mean, I got into making clay coasters, and I have a stack just over my shoulder of 20 or 30 of them that have gone poorly. So that has been a fun hobby.
Do you have one near you that's gone well that you could
give
show
me
off?
1 second.
All right. Cole?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I took on was defending my home from the varmint that is the squirrel. I went and purchased a small pellet rifle to defend our home as they've begun to get pesky, man. They start going at your house and making all sorts of racket. So I am the protector and the alpha of this neighborhood and this home.
That is remarkable. I would expect nothing less. I think Ty's been working on his blow dart game. If you need some backup,
some silence,
bring that over.
Some stealth, yeah. he's going to be coming down to Houston. We're going to need some stealth attacks.
Guys,
for
20,
some of these
20
last
yards
guys.
and in. 20 yards.
They're
and
smart.
in.
They're
Deadly.
smart, man. They're on to me. So I need some stealth.
You got to go full camo, face paint, maybe keep the blaze orange vest on so you don't get mistaken for a squirrel by other local squirrel hunters.
Well, maybe, I make an Amazon purchase for a ghillie suit. I think that would be pretty necessary right now.
I'll pitch into that one.
Right now, you're on the computer. Go ahead. Reese, let's see the coaster.
Okay, so this one is my most recent attempt at like marbling different colors, and you can't see it, but there's like glitter stuff in it. I don't know. It took me way longer than I would have expected it to, but it has been fun to see how different colors come together.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Shout out to Reese's Etsy page. You want to drop your Etsy profile while we're here?
One day when I have more free time.
All right. Well, that's those are three very different hobbies that you guys have been working on.
I think those coasters would go really well with that faith, family, and friends sign that you've got in the background there, Swenson.
You like that?
Yeah. Now you just need another one that says "Live, Laugh, Love."
Maybe I'll be Reese's first official customer.
Probably.
What are you charging? What are you charging for a 4-pack of those?
For you, a year's dues. For anyone else, nothing.
I do not have the power to make that decision. So I'll probably just have Cole get 8 and then I'll snag 4 of them.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. All right. Moving forward from that little get to know your CAC section. Going back to the Esteem series. Esteem, the definition is respect and admiration for ourselves and for others. When you think about, TKE's values of charity, esteem, and love, how has your outlook on those, but just your value system in general, the things that you value, the things that you cherish, the things you take pride in about yourself, about your personality, how has that changed throughout the time that you've been in college, and what role has TKE played in the change that has had within you?
I mean, at least for me, I think I came into college with a, I wouldn't call it weak morals, but I wasn't, well defined in what matters to me and where I stand as a person. And I think that being a TKE and having the opportunity to work with a bunch of different people from all over the US who I never would have interacted with regardless has given me a perspective on, not only what matters to me, but why it's important that I have those convictions, if that makes sense. Because there's a lot of people who say, well, I value family. Well, cool. You have a family. Everyone does, or at least most of us do. But I think that like part of the building your own value system piece comes from the conversations that I've had with brothers and with potential new members and with other TKEs from other chapters and people at headquarters. So I think being a TKE has really helped to give me that broader perspective of why do these things matter to me? Because it's not always just about things that directly affect me or will directly impact my future. But, there's a lot of things that come up in conversation that I would never have even thought about that I'm instantly really passionate about.
Yeah, I think this goes back to what I said earlier about just having conversations with other people and having conversations with guys in TKE, not just from Beta-Zeta from my chapter, but guys like Tom Geary and guys like Edwin Robinson, and hearing from them about their experiences and kind of like what Reese said, not just caring or being passionate about what directly affects you, but what affects the people around you and what affects the people that you care about and that you love.
Yeah, I would say that the overarching theme there is perspective, right? And as many different perspectives as you can add to your life, the more empathetic that you will be. And I think that's another key value that's not charity, esteem, and love that is really what our fraternity strives for is empathy. The ability to understand what other people are going through. We talked about it earlier in this conversation to look at the plight of others and say, okay, I can't live that because I'm not right. I don't have the same circumstances as you, the same upbringing, but I can help to understand what you're going through and be empathetic to the issues you're facing and do my best to help work through those. So the fraternity offers us that ability. You're not, when you join a fraternity, when you join TKE, you're not sitting in your dorm room playing video games 24/7, right? You're not going to the cafeteria by yourself, grabbing lunch, and then walking back. You're engaged with people from all over the country with all different backgrounds, with all different perspectives, and hopefully that allows you to kind of clear up your own values and perspectives. So it's good to hear that from you all, and hopefully for those listening, that's something that they have also experienced. And if not, it's something that you can make a little more conscious effort to do moving forward. Another big piece, and I think we talked about this a little bit earlier as well, was reflection and introspection and self-evaluation, and the role that plays in all of our TKE journey, but specifically for you guys as leaders in your chapter. Reese, I know you were a refounding member of the Alpha Pi chapter there, and you really led a strong effort to get that group back up and running. What role has self-reflection and introspection played in your growth as a leader and in your ability to be an effective catalyst of change, whether it be in your chapter, on your campus, in your own personal life, whatever avenue you want to think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like you said, I was part of the group that refounded Alpha Pi, and I think that reflection for me, for that first group of guys, for that original class of founding members, reflection was something that, and that whole self introspection is where we had the chance to sit down and say, well, why does this matter to us? Like, yes, love, charity, and esteem, these values sound good and they are noble pursuits, but why specifically do I like TKE? Why do I like the organization? What? And I think that is really big in helping to actually tangibly benefit the chapter, because for us, when we sat down in a meeting, and I think there were 10 or 12 of us, and Nick Kimball asked the group, he said, what do you care about? Why are you here specifically? And he wouldn't let anybody leave until we had all given what he thought to be a sufficient response. And I think that whole procedure of saying, not only why do I like these values, but why does this specific experience of TKE mean something to me? And I think that's for me and for the group of guys that I'm around, that whole sitting down to say, why does this group specifically mean something that I like? It could be outside of TKE, this group of 40 guys, maybe I could have met them on the tennis team or something, or I would have met them somewhere else. But like, for me, the sitting down and saying, what about this group of guys makes me so excited to work with them and to create a better future so that people coming into college after us have the opportunity to enjoy this experience? I think that's been really big.
I think I learned a lot about how I respond to just certain situations and certain circumstances, whether they can be in my control or out of my control, how I as a leader behave towards that. Because as soon as quarantine first started mid-March, it was dead. Nothing was happening. Everybody had left campus. And then it gets into the summer and we're kind of starting to progress towards a little bit more normalcy. And we sit there and think, okay, we've kind of just been sitting on our butts for the last, 4 months. What do we do now? How do we recruit guys? How do we go about our regular business once we get back to campus? And learning that about myself, of how I can react to something that I wasn't prepared for originally, and how I can react and lead other people through something like that as well, has been huge for me. And I've learned a lot about myself through that.
Yeah, I think, as Ty kind of mentioned, there were a lot of groups that when quarantine started and all this stuff, they sat back and they said that they weren't going to do anything until it goes back to normal, right? And for some people, they thought that was going to be five weeks. Some people thought that was going to be 5 months, right? but there were a lot of people who sat there and they said that, you know, they resisted the idea of change, and they said that they were just going to wait. And then there were a lot of groups, you know, Alpha Pi, especially Louisiana Tech and us in Houston, who, you know, we sat there, we did the Call of Duty for 2 weeks. We did the, you know, stay at home and stay up late, and, you know, and then guys got antsy. They were ready to do something. And so rather than sitting back and, you know, canceling what we did for our St. Jude Teague week, we flipped it virtual, and we raised $50,000 in 1 week. And I think that was a huge catalyst for our group to realize that the potential to operate and the potential to do something and find value in the fraternity was still there. And so we steamrolled through the rest of the summer in planning and doing Zoom calls and getting ready for this fall. And so it came a little easier. Whereas, you know, we had conversation with some groups that were struggling, that they folded, and they said, well, we'll come back in spring. And it was just very interesting to see, you know, as Ty also mentioned, the way that we react to things and the way as leaders and chapters we approached issues. I think if our executive council or e-board at that time packed up and said, well, we'll just come back in the spring, we would have a lot of guys who would have done the same thing. But because of our guys and our leaders going out there from the front and from the get-go saying, no, we're going to push through this. We're going to use this opportunity to grow and become better. That was where we saw some real growth. I mean, you learned how to do things way more efficiently, whereas, you know, chapter meetings typically, you know, sometimes can go up to an hour and a half long. You're having chapter meetings, they last 20 minutes because everybody's muted on screen, not everybody's talking. And it's just the ability to adapt has just been monumental in changing the way chapters operate now. I mean, we can now do member education and have Alex Swenson all the way from Indianapolis come in and talk to our guys, whereas before we had to wait for maybe Donnie or Swenson to come into town for whatever reason they were there. And so that it's just helped chapters grow and just become even more better.
Yeah, and it all ties together, right? Everything we've talked about, the ability to have perspective, the ability to reflect and look within yourself, you know, the ability to be empathetic and think about what others are going through, all of that plays into your ability to react to situations and respond appropriately. The more diversity in opinion you have, the more diversity in thought you have, the better equipped you're going to be to respond to a certain situation or to react to a negative event or a negative circumstance. And so, you know, I really appreciate you guys sharing that. And I think for anyone out there listening who has maybe struggled a little bit in how they want to bounce back from quarantine or from the COVID pandemic, you know, think about just starting with some reflection about how that time's gone for you, whether you journal or open up a Google Doc or a Word document or just sit and think with yourself, right? That ability is key, I think, into how we move forward from this and how we are able to bounce back and look, we keep saying whenever things get back to normal, right? There's a new normal. We're not going to go back to where we were pre-COVID, but we can get to an even better place, I think, if we all think about what we learned and think about how we can bounce back effectively and efficiently. And so, you know, I have just a couple things left, and I want to start with this. We talk about moving forward. We talk about looking forward. The year 2020 is going to end soon, hopefully. I don't think we're getting an extension on it. At least I hope not. But what are you guys looking to in 2021? What are your goals? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? You know, what are you excited about in 21 that hopefully is feasible and within reach? Because, you know, there's some vaccine good news coming out. There's some things trending in the right direction. What's 2021 look like for you guys, and where are you hoping to take the next year?
I mean, for me, and I'm sure Cole probably feels somewhat similar, as seniors almost on our way out, looking to 2021 is really exciting because yes, COVID is a lot. This pandemic is a lot. There's a lot of obstacles to moving forward, but the thought that in 6-8 months I will be looking at adult big boy jobs and being able to start my life. I think that's it's almost a light at the end of the tunnel for me, because like this has been so long. It feels like I've been in my apartment by myself with my dog for 30 years and I'm 21 years old. But, so that thought that, come May 17th, I'm done with college. I mean, I'm ready to become an adult and start, looking at where I want to go after this. I think that's a really motivating factor for me, trying to mentally reset for 2021 and what could happen after graduation. That's really exciting. And that's where I look forward to the next year.
Maybe the coaster business gets off the ground, right? Maybe the Etsy page takes off and you don't even need to look for a job.
I'll start the teak theme coasters and I'll sell them in batches of 1,000 directly to headquarters.
Well, look forward to a call from Alex Baker on that one. I'm sitting that one out.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to is an end of the NFL season, and maybe the Cowboys can recover a little bit. It's been a brutal
recover one of Zeke's fumbles instead of the other team recovering his fumbles. Is that what you mean?
And Dak's ankle, and everybody else that's been hurt. And I need my sports teams. Apparently, I've just picked all the wrong teams to just hit that reset button for me. And get back to the training ground. I mean, even the Houston Cougars haven't been looking too promising. So that's been pretty hard and tough for me to watch other people win and to lose. But I am, like Reese is saying, I was looking forward to, getting out of school. I think, especially as this last year of classes go through and it's all virtual, it almost feels like it's a little more drug out. And so, I'm looking forward to, crossing that finish line, going into the next chapter of my life and attacking it differently, because we've all learned a lot. I actually was thankful enough to actually get a full-time job here at the tail end of the pandemic. But, the ability to actually go back into the office rather than sit at my house and get cabin fever all day is going to be great for me as well.
I'm excited for hopefully a normal spring quarter. We're on quarters instead of semesters for those who don't follow that, I guess. But freshman year, my spring quarter, we had a tornado that came through Ruston, Louisiana, and wiped out like all kinds of stuff. And then spring quarter, my sophomore year, we had COVID. And so hopefully spring quarter of my junior year in 2021 will be incident-free, pandemic-free, natural disaster-free. We're building a brand new baseball stadium at Louisiana Tech, and I'm super pumped to be able to watch some baseball games there. Mine is not nearly as life applicable as Reese or Cole's points were, but I'm super pumped to hopefully be able to have that.
It's all right. You gotta have something to look forward to. So hopefully Louisiana Tech baseball fares better than any of Cole's sports teams.
Hope so too.
Well, I mean, it's a low bar. So just, be competent and don't run the wrong way around the bases. And they're better than, the NFL's Cowboys, I would say. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate the energy and the effort. You all have done a tremendous job of just reflecting yourselves throughout the last 45 minutes, and I appreciate that. And again, hopefully that inspires some others to take some time and think about what the last year has been. It's gone by in a flash. I had a daughter born in May, and it's now November, and she's 6 months old, and it went by in no time at all, but it also feels like it's been 7 years, right? So it's been a really interesting time to be a TEAC, to be a college student, as you guys have attested, to be in a fraternity in general. But I think the ability for all of us as TEACs to work together and to lean on one another and rely on the brotherhood that you all have, not just with your local chapters, but like Reese said, around the country, with us at headquarters, with the volunteers, with other men that you've met through the CAC or through Conclave RLCs, I think that's made it a little easier, right? And I think that's made all of our lives a little more fulfilled because of those relationships that we share within the fraternity. I want to leave on a high note, so I will ask you one final question about 2020. What is the very best thing that has happened to you in 2020. And that could be perhaps sports related, could be personal, whatever direction you decide to take it. What's the best thing that happened to you this year?
I mean, I think for me, this is the first time I've ever been in an apartment all the way alone by myself. Before this, I lived in the teak house, and before that, I was in dorms. So, as hard as 2020 has been, it has been a fun time to live by myself with my dog and get to just enjoy my own space.
Yeah, I think for me, and mom and dad may be listening to this right now as well. I love my parents dearly, just as much as anybody else. But getting back out of their house and back to school, back to Houston, I think that was a huge win for me. Just to get back to my own life, it almost felt like Groundhog Day there with my parents during the beginning of this quarantine and this pandemic to go through the same things and answer some of the same questions from my parents twice a day. And it was nice to get back to my own life and my own humble little casa here in Houston.
I'm sure they miss their baby boy.
They stole my dog, so they're happy with him. I've been replaced.
Interesting.
There's a current custody battle going over for him right now.
Well, you'll have to keep us updated.
I got to do a lot more fishing than I normally would have in the spring and the summer, just because of classes being online and that kind of thing. Just had a lot more opportunity to kind of get away and go catch some fish. So that was definitely a highlight of 2020 on my end.
Very nice. Well, as I said, I appreciate the time, guys. Appreciate the energy, the effort you put into to being guests on the podcast here, and hopefully we have a chance to do this again. Although hopefully it's under different circumstances. But I do think that if men are listening to this and committed to making positive changes, there's a lot they could take away from it. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Best of luck with everything the rest of this school year. I'm sure I'll talk to you each at some point on different terms, but to you guys that are getting ready to graduate, good luck and hope that works out. And Ty, hope the new baseball stadium's super exciting. So with that, appreciate everyone out there listening. Appreciate your time you're giving to the Teak Nation podcast. Looking forward to talking with you all again very soon.